Welcome to a new edition of the IFC Education webinar series, Learning in the Age of Disruption. Today's webinar is titled Shaping the Future of Transformational Education and Lessons from COVID-19, Mexico Shows the Way. This event is a joint effort between the IFC and Tecnológico de Monterrey, one of Mexico's leading institutions of higher learning. My name is Jaime Martinez, and I am the site director in Mexico City of EGADE Business School, which is Tecnológico de Monterrey's graduate school in business. Today's conversation will revolve around Tech 21, a new educational model developed and recently implemented at Tech based on challenge-based learning with external business partners, modular flexibility, and cross-cutting real-life skills. However, we will also be discussing how the Tech 21 model has been adapted to distance learning during COVID-19 and what the experience of Tech 21's business partners has been. Connected to today's session are leaders and directives from both the IFC and Tecnológico de Monterrey, the author of the IFC case study on Tech 21, as well as one of the key business partners that has made the implementation of Tech 21 a success. To begin, I would like to invite Georgina Baker, IFC Vice President for Latin America, the Caribbean, and Central Asia, to share some inaugural words with us.
Good morning. It's a real pleasure to be with you here today and to welcome you to this event. I'm especially pleased to be here with David Garza, President of the Mexico-based Tec de Monterrey. Tec is certainly one of the most highly respected and recognized innovative private universities in Latin America and the Caribbean. Together, we're going to explore Tec de Monterrey's approach to providing students with a quality and relevant education, which includes partnerships the university develops with businesses to give students an opportunity to solve real-life challenges. For IFC, investments in tertiary education are a critical route for building strong economies. Universities like Tec de Monterrey are empowering the youth region with learning and experience they need to succeed. We know the importance of higher education for boosting incomes and for creating the next generation of entrepreneurs and other leaders in the private and public sectors. This is another reason why the COVID-19 pandemic is so devastating across the region and why we need universities like Tec to lead in innovations so that we can keep young men and women in school connected and able to benefit from all that a tertiary education provides. The impact in Latin America and Caribbean of university shutdowns was significant. It is estimated that some 23 million tertiary education students were affected, which is pretty much all of them, 98% of the total number of students. According to a survey of tertiary education institutions in the region, carried out by the Washington-based DC American University, the ability of universities to provide an education through digital platforms was limited, particularly at the outset. Much of this was because of the difficulties around access to reliable internet for university students. Institutions sought to manage this in a variety of ways. For example, Anima, an IFC client, negotiated a special discount with a telecommunications service provider to allow their students to affordably upgrade their internet platforms. The COVID-19 pandemic has put new stresses on the whole of the education sector. Innovative approaches are needed to keep students connected and to ensure gains made over the past years are not lost. While the impact of the pandemic spans all levels of education, we will focus today on the effects on the post-secondary education. Providing people with the right skills for tertiary education for entering the labor market is critical in higher education. And the changing nature of work requires people to invest in upskilling and reskilling through lifelong learning so they can be flexible, adaptable, and remain productive in a rapidly changing economy. IFC focuses on investments in tertiary education, and Latin America is IFC's second largest region, representing 23% or 633 million of its total portfolio. We're looking to support innovative ways to develop education using technology and to expand access to quality tertiary education, which is necessary for providing lasting economic opportunities for the population and overall economic growth for the country at large. For example, this year, IFC invested in the Brazilian tertiary education provider Anima, to help the company expand access to quality and affordable education for 118,000 low and middle income students. For institutions in the region, with no exception, were closed at some point during the pandemic. Many remain closed today. COVID-19 is forcing universities to shut down in-person campus learning, move classes to a remote online format, and are starting to build systems and capabilities for an at-scale hybrid and online education. Many universities have already been developing distance learning programs and online content, but the pandemic pushed them to accelerate these efforts. The shift to remote learning, which occurred without warning, has also laid bare the challenges in transforming the in-person learning experience to a successful, high-quality online experience. The shift is also proving financially challenging for some institutions and their students. The pandemic has cut enrollment and revenues, and universities are considering how to manage the medium and long-term impacts on enrollments and revenues. And there are serious discussions underway about the viability of academic, operating, and financial models. The pandemic has also forced universities to reconsider the fundamentals of how to provide education. Universities may at some point be able to go back to in-person learning, but higher education institutions are now considering how to build up systems and capabilities for an online education for the long term. There is no question that the rapid response that was required for program continuity in the short term is also triggering digital experimentation and potentially a great leap forward in the way tertiary education is delivered and scaled. This is a space that IFC wants to be and is involved. We're currently piloting what we call 4DTEP, a new advisory services product developed in partnership with Deloitte Consulting to assist universities in developing digital strategies. Two of the tertiary education institutions we are now working with are in Peru and Colombia. By January, we hope to be able to offer this across the region. Despite its early stage of development, online learning has historically been part of the tertiary education experience in Latin America. In 2010, about 12% of the total number of students in the region were learning remotely, and this percentage grew to 15% by 2017. However, except for Brazil, where more than 1 in 3 students enrolling in tertiary education instruments are learning remotely, elsewhere, online learning has been limited, concentrated in a few universities and focused on postgraduate programs. The current situation highlights the need to ensure universities have the right systems, equipment, and talent to develop online learning experiences that will meet degree requirements leading to progression and graduation. And of course, it's important to ensure that all students have what they need to access online learning. Universities and other tertiary education institutions will need to include an assessment of students' needs to make this work. This means considering creative ways to help, especially the most vulnerable students, get and stay online, as well as adapting the students' academic experience, admission and retention processes to support institutions' liquidity and minimize dropout rates. Over time, and depending on how long this situation lasts, the prospect of the economic downturn resulting from the pandemic will be a stress on institutions' finances. This situation may fundamentally alter business models in modern tertiary education. Institutions may have to be more flexible in terms of how they structure and price their delivery models. And as always, they will need to maintain or even improve quality and relevance of higher education. Beyond the current implications of the COVID-19 crisis, digitalizing higher education has been a necessity in today's societies in Latin America, where there is a growing need for flexible work and study arrangements to enable workers to respond to the upskilling and reskilling requirement that the new world of work entails. This is even more important in an area where lifelong learning has become the new normal and where a significant part of a person's education and training needs will take place at a later stage in life. What we are seeing is that when distance learning is available, you get more students above the traditional age of tertiary education, which is an important market for universities to consider and capture. In Brazil, 52% of students who were doing distance learning before the pandemic were aged 30 and above, and more than 63% were women. Many people in the labour force will benefit from upskilling or expanding their credentials today. In developing countries, seeking to transform their economies by focusing on higher value-added activities, there is an increasing number of jobs that require education at the post-secondary level. Now I'd like to turn back to Monterrey. This event is a great opportunity to learn from the institution's experience in transitioning to new delivery modalities. We're going to hear about how its ambitious academic reform program, Tech 21, has been adapted to the new context, where the need for education innovation and enhanced use of technology in education alongside the private sector is greater than ever. Tech has been a leader in so many different areas of higher education. The university has always sought strong linkages with the private sector. The Tech 21 program tries to better equip students for the work challenges of the future by asking them to resolve real-life challenges in partnership with industry. The results speak for themselves. The university has a strong track record when it comes to students being employed after graduation. Its graduates can be found in leading organizations around the world, including corporations, NGOs, and government. Tech is also a key Latin American actor in promoting the agenda of innovation in higher education through its Observatory of Education Innovation and the International Conference on Educational Innovation. We are fortunate to have Tech's president, David Garza, here, and I'd like to welcome him again and to turn this over to him so he can speak about the innovations, challenges, and the future ideas of Tec de Monterrey. David, over to you.
Thank you, Georgina, and delighted to have you with us. Now, please welcome David Garza, President of Tecnológico de Monterrey. David?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this event. We appreciate your presence today. I want to thank IFC and the World Bank. It's a pleasure to be here with Georgina, Elena, and Anne. Thank you for your interest in the innovation that has been happening at Tecnológico de Monterrey, as well as your interest in the dissemination of this innovation through events like this. In 2013, we envisioned the advent of a substantial change in education. At that time, it was already common to hear that we live in a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Without doubt, we are living unprecedented times due to the pandemic, and now more than ever, we have many questions about how education should be in the future. Universities have traditionally focused on making undergraduates ready to face the world. Since 2013, we were constantly reminded that when our students graduate, they will go on to work in jobs that do not yet exist. They will be using technologies that have not yet been invented, and they will be solving problems that are not yet even on our radar. A challenge for everyone in higher education worldwide is how can we better educate our students. With this in mind, we decided to overhaul our educational model, a new model which we dubbed Tech 21. We have deployed our new model incrementally, and finally, in the fall of last year, after 6 years of continuous development, all of our undergraduate programs fully integrated all the elements of Tech 21 into their curricula. Challenge-based learning is the pillar that most differentiates Tech 21 from traditional educational models. Tech 21 by itself has been a great challenge for us. However, thanks to the dedication and commitment of our faculty and the support of everyone in the institution, it has been very well received by our students and has generated international attention. As an example, international publications by organizations such as IFC, OECD, BBC, Times Higher Education, and University World News. Also, last year, more than 70 university presidents from around the world had the opportunity to know the model during their visits to our campus. Previously, value resided in knowledge. Today, it lies in what one can do with knowledge, in learning how to learn, and in adapting rapidly to new situations. We believe that with Tech 21, our graduates will not only be ready to get a job, but will also be equipped to create their own opportunities and to contribute to the development of their community and the world. Now, in our second year of full operation of the model, we are going through this pandemic, and this brings new challenges, but also opportunities. Definitely, concepts like micro-credentialing, stackable programs, unbundling the university experience, hybrid learning, multimodal delivery, lifelong learning, free-flow experiences, and student well-being are just some of the concepts that will have an important impact in the future of education. The leadership that universities around the world have shown during the pandemic can be synthesized as leadership of 3 R's: resourceful, resilient, and responsive. And we will need to continue with this type of leadership even after the pandemic is over, due to the changes that our sector will face. I hope that you find this event enlightening and inspirational for the upcoming challenges and opportunities that are yet to come. Thank you very much.
Next, we have the author of the IFC case study on Tech21, Anne Casanova, who will elaborate on her journey and findings concerning Tech21 and this new model's lessons and implications for higher learning globally. After her presentation, Anne will be joined by a panel of guests to discuss how Tech21 has continued to evolve over these challenging past months. Anne, the virtual podium is all yours.
Thank you, Jaime. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm delighted to have you here with us today to discuss the Tec de Monterrey case study, which is part of a series of Harvard Business School inspired case studies that IFC has developed to showcase sustainable business models in tertiary education. We cover themes such as innovation, quality, and affordability. They are all published on IFC's education webpage, and we hope they will inspire you. Today, we are going to take you on a journey back in time to show you how tech radically overhauled its educational model. It was 2012, and there was a sense of restlessness among students. The world was changing rapidly. Education was at an inflection point, and students had changed too. The first generation of students that grew up with Google were now entering universities. From a very young age, these students had on-demand access to information, anytime, anywhere. Knowledge had been democratized as it never had before, over the entire course of civilization. There was a new generation of students that wanted more from educational institutions, and they had little appetite for outdated learning methods. They were not the only restless ones. Society was scrutinizing the value of higher education. And parents were starting to ask, is higher education worth it? Major universities like Harvard, Stanford, and MIT were discussing the return on investment for students and creating new academic models, including space redesign for 21st century learning and a renewed use of technology in the classroom. The New York Times warned about the Campus Tsunami, where online education had the potential to dramatically disrupt education as it had done to many businesses. But it could also open up new opportunities, pushing universities higher up the value chain, away from information transmission and into a complex social and emotional process of deeper learning. David Garza, who was then the dean of Tecnológico de Monterrey's flagship campus in Monterrey, Mexico, shared the warning signs he was seeing around the world with Salvador Alba, who was then the newly appointed president of Tec. Tec had long enjoyed a reputation as a top quality institution in Mexico and in Latin America. In 1950, Tec was the first foreign institution in the world to receive accreditation from a US body. And that was a significant validation at the time. And several other important accreditations followed from the UK and the EU. For more than 75 years, Tec has been a leader in entrepreneurship and innovation. It had 26 campuses in 20 states and more than 64,000 undergraduate and graduate students. It had no market issues and was financially sustainable. But the threats and the opportunities to serve new generations of students were starting to emerge. Salvador Alva asked the Board of Trustees, "What kind of a legacy do you want to leave?" The response was clear: to significantly elevate the quality and the relevance of education by developing better students, better faculty, and better programs. With a mission in hand, the hard work of redesigning the educational model began. In 2013, David Garza, who was now the Vice Provost of Undergraduate Education, led a small team that included Juan Pablo Mura, who we have with us today. They began with a diagnostic and a benchmarking exercise. They launched a highly consultative process. More than 5,000 students, faculty, alumni, and employers provided feedback, and their responses were clear and strong. The students said that the education was good, but there was a disconnect between the lesson and the relevance to the world. Learning or memorizing for the exam was superficial and it was short-term in nature. They most valued experiential learning, and they wanted a greater connection with the real world, and they definitely sought more flexibility. The consultations with alumni unearthed very interesting insights. They valued studying abroad or opportunities to gain valuable work experience. They valued establishing relationships with people of different backgrounds through cultural and extracurricular activities. Interestingly, the last areas they mentioned were the academic components. Salvador's eyes were opened. So many of these activities had been optional, but he realized they are critical in preparing students for life, and they had to focus more on it. Similarly, Tech consulted employers and its advisory boards, and they said that graduates needed more practical life experiences. Graduates also needed more multidisciplinary abilities, and this was growing in importance over specialization. They said we wanted more linkages and collaboration. The university should not steer the content of teaching solely on what academics believe is important. Tech then concluded a benchmarking exercise. In addition to visiting the world's leading institutions, such as Harvard, MIT, and Oxford, they also visited institutions that were innovating, such as Singapore University of Technology and Design, the Technion Israel Institute of Technology, and the University of Melbourne. The key takeaways were, first, it's about the faculty, the students, and the curriculum. Second, it's the way you admit and grant scholarships, and that is crucial. Third, how do you inspire and transform faculty so that they understand they are not conveyors of content, but rather they are developers of competencies and providers of inspiration for students so that students can become a better version of themselves. Some of the institutions they consulted told Tech, "I wish I could do this, but it's going to be very difficult given the academic structure." The design team was starting to get a sense that the new educational model would be focused on dominating competencies, not just grades. Salvador Alva reflected, "The conclusion scared us all. The formative model of the best university in Mexico and arguably in Latin America would have to change radically. We were going to organize Tech in a process that was oriented towards its students. The students would be the central focus and the reason for the learning process." Fortunately, Alva knew a bit about change management. He had written a book about it. 70% of change efforts fail, but he knew that effective persuasion and a long-term multi-step process, rather than a singular event, were keys to success. They began with the critical elements: the vision, the organization, and the culture. They started announcing a new strategic vision for 2020, which was to develop leaders with an entrepreneurial spirit and a social purpose who are internationally competitive. They turned to the organizational elements. Each of the 26 campuses had a campus director with decision-making authority and financial control. ADVA quickly concluded that to achieve consistent delivery of quality, Tech needed to transform itself into a single academic institution, un solo Tech, with a presence in 26 different cities. Tech was restructured to eliminate vertical silos of power. The structure was changed to align itself by academic areas instead of operational areas, giving the individual faculties greater influence than the campuses. To manage the change, funds and procurement were centralized, and the leadership was rearranged. When the faculty realized that they had the power and that they were being prioritized, it was easy to convince them that they were moving in the right direction. Tech also increased salaries, paying faculty about 30 to 56% more than the average higher education institution in Mexico. And it paid a premium for classes taught in English. Over the course of 5 years, Tech transformed its talent base. About 30% of staff left the institution, another 30% changed positions, and about 30% were external new hires. Recognizing that student tuition is not our money, Tech set out to find ways to increase productivity. Over 7 years, Tech continued to increase the use of technology and prioritized strengthening faculty over operational functions. Tech has about 7,400 total faculty members, of which 78% are adjunct professors and 22% are full-time. So it was important to now start to tackle the culture. In the summer of 2015, even though they were still uncertain about what the final product would look like, David Garza took the bold step and announced that Tech was designing a new educational model that would be more engaging for students. It would be characterized by interactive learning experiences, it would have more flexibility, and it would be supported by inspiring faculty members. Garza explained, it was completely different from the curriculum updates we did every 5 years because we were changing how we educated students. It would be multidisciplinary. It would incorporate real-world problems, and it would collaborate with external partners. And it would require faculty members to play very different roles. In developing a new narrative about the new educational model required the leadership team to invest a lot of time with professors. They explained to the faculty, we understand that Tech is the best university in Mexico and probably in Latin America. So why change? Well, we either change or we become obsolete. We're big and we're the incumbent. And it's not about whether we want to change, but how fast we will change. Then they brought in the experts in marketing and consciousness and an organizational psychologist to motivate and inspire the faculty and staff. Juan Pablo explained, there was a major cultural shift that was focused on classical, hardcore strategic planning and prioritization. They established 10 key performance indicators to measure how well faculty and staff were living Tech's 5 organizational values. They started offering incentives to leaders of the organization based on the effectiveness of changing the culture, and it took the pulse of the organization with surveys to ensure that people were happy working for Tech. As they were designing the new model, Tech wanted to brainstorm without constraints, but some faculty and staff believed that accreditation would be a barrier to significant change. David Garza told the team, let's work on the design first. That helped Tech to have a lot of flexibility about what the model should look like. When they got to the point that they needed to define the guidelines for the curriculums, then they started to look at the accreditation requirements to take decisions on what was mandatory for accreditation. One of the interesting things they found was that there were many myths. Some faculty said, no, we cannot do this because of the accreditation. And David Garza said, okay, please show me. Where in the accreditation does it say that it's not possible? When they returned, they found that the accreditation did not limit Tech's proposal. So it was possible. And David Garza said, that happened more than once. Roman Martinez, who is the Vice Rector of Educational Transformation, explained further. Most of the accreditation bodies already have a quality model that is based on evidence of competencies or learning outcomes. So this was completely consistent with Tech's new model. He said that the changes in the way of living the curriculum do not normally need to be explained in the registry or in the documentation for accreditors. So that was great news. By 2014, the leadership team was deciding whether the new model was a go or no go, because they didn't know if it was economically feasible. The first set of economic models forecast a 50% increase in costs, and the board quickly rejected it. The leadership team continued to adjust the model, and the board agreed to a model that increased costs by 15%. In 2018, the design of the new educational model was ready. Tech had reinvented the concept of undergraduate education in many ways. It was completely student-centric. It would give students a great deal of flexibility and allow them to curate their path to a degree and specialization. Tech would offer a competency-based education where students take on challenges of the caliber that consultancy firms typically handle. It would promote a style of teaching that is akin to mentoring. It would leverage cutting-edge technologies and develop critical personal competencies. The model would deliver these disciplinary and cross-cutting competencies through 4 pillars: challenge-based learning, flexibility, a memorable university experience, and inspiring professors. These elements would prepare students to become leaders who are capable of facing the challenges of the 21st century. Juan Pablo Mura will explain the 4 pillars momentarily. But first, let's look at how tech changed mindsets to introduce the new model. Because the leadership team was aware that the scale of change would be dramatic, they decided that rather than sending a managerial communication to the entire university, it was essential to get the buy-in from the professors. A grassroots method of cultivating peer-to-peer buy-in would be more effective. Roman Martinez explained, "We could have all the technology, better infrastructure, and a better economic model. But without the active engagement from professors, it would all be worthless." Cultivating relationships would be essential. But this would be a challenge because Tech is a large and dispersed institution with professors across many campuses, and many didn't have contact with each other. So in 2015, Tech launched a national faculty meeting to manage the change. The intent was to connect professors from the same discipline so they could network and start to develop national projects. At this forum, the leadership team communicated the results of the 2014 diagnostic. They told faculty, "The signals are very clear. We have to transform our educational model." They announced the broad strokes of the new educational model, and they explained that it would be an incremental transition over several years. This initiative would not be like previous reforms. The strategy was to do pilots and then have faculty present their successful experiences to their colleagues. As to be expected, some faculty members were deeply skeptical and told Roman Martinez, "What you are proposing is crazy. It's not going to work. Roman, see things differently." But Roman told them, "You have not fully captured the underlying premise. There is a pilot coming up. Give it a chance, and let's talk afterwards." Tech developed a series of transition initiatives and began with a week-long pilot called iWeek. The I stands for innovation. And they later scaled it up to I semester. David Garza explained, "We held a call for proposals. Any professor could participate in the challenge design teams. The first pilot ran 1,600 projects concurrently. iWeek required the entire institution, students, faculty, and staff to mobilize at the same time. All the regular academic activity was suspended, and students picked from a variety of challenges that were designed by faculty from different disciplines and implemented in partnership with outside companies, NGOs, and governments." David Garza reflected on that initial week. There was a lot of excitement. In the past, students would say they did not understand why certain topics were relevant, but now they could see the connections between the disciplines. The students said they had never worked so hard in 1 week, and they asked for more. They liked it so much they didn't want to go back to the traditional classroom. Juan Pablo Mura added, "What really surprised us was that the faculty was even more happy than the students." The partner companies were also very excited and asked how they could continue working together. That was when Tech confirmed that it was on the right track and that they had expanded the experience to a full semester. After the I-Week pilot, Roman Martinez heard back from the initial skeptics. They came back and they were transformed. They said, Roman, now I understand. And I'm sorry I didn't believe in it before. But after having lived it, now I understand. It will be a lot of work. It's the future and I identify with it. And it's what I want. After that exercise, there were a wave of converts who became evangelizers. One key factor was having adequate time. Roman Martinez explained, if we had not given ourselves a long time horizon of 5 years, perhaps we would have encountered greater resistance. Tech started to have early adopters and supporters, but the challenge was to scale up the pilot for the entire curriculum, for all the disciplines across 26 campuses, which was a daunting task. In 2017, the national schools embarked on a full curriculum redesign process. The entire curriculum had to be designed from scratch because now faculty had to co-design, they had to co-teach, and they had to engage with outside development partners. And they had to change their pedagogy to be effective. The curriculum redesign was led by the individual schools, so they would determine the formative end goal for each program. But a key challenge was adapting the curriculum to the new model, which had many interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary elements. So this required the control schemes of each of the schools to be broken. Tech designed working groups and workshops with 250 professors from all the schools. There was leadership at the level of each school and leadership at the level of each program for cross-cutting issues. In addition, the national guiding documents on challenge-based learning methodology and competency development and evaluation were developed to assist faculty members. Planning the new curriculum and developing content for the first semester was expected to take 6 months. But in reality, it ended up taking a full year. It was the most delicate and demanding part of the entire process. Martinez explains, it was challenging because we had to dissuade professors from defending their special interest in their study. We told them, start with a blank page and start to design based on the technical and cross-cutting competencies for the challenge. There was a lot of debate, a lot of discussion, and a lot of back and forth, and a lot of learning. We broke a lot of mental schemes. It took 2 years of construction to finish all the programs. About 2 years into the Tech 21 design, faculty members started to come forward asking for additional support. They said, I've been teaching the same way for 25 years, and I need help to learn to teach the new way. In response, Tech set up the Centers for Faculty Development and Educational Innovation. Any faculty member could get assistance in designing a challenge or incorporating the use of technology. In August 2019, Tech fully implemented the model for the first cohort of freshman students. And over the next 3 years, it will extend Tech 21 to incoming classes to reach the entire university student population. The essential elements in changing mindsets were the National Faculty Meeting, I-Week, I-Semester, and leveraging the professors themselves to become agents of change. Faculty leaders, department chairs, and regional deans played an important role in changing the culture. 4 months into full implementation, the leadership team believed that about 80% of faculty have bought in. Now let's look at Tech's new educational model, Tech 21. The foundation of the new educational model was built on cross-cutting competencies that students would develop. Tech was already forming highly technical, competent professionals, and it already emphasized ethics and citizenship, leadership, and entrepreneurship capabilities. So it built on those competencies and added 7 more in order to build leaders that the 21st century will need. And these competencies are embedded across all of the disciplines. Now, Juan Pablo, can you please tell us about the 4 pillars of Tech 21, which will underpin the entire model?
So early in 2012, our president then, Salvador Alba, attended the Davos Forum of the World Economic Forum, and he came back with a question that was addressed there about the lack of leadership in the world to address humanity's largest challenges. So we defined at that time our vision for tech to develop leaders with an entrepreneurial spirit, a humanistic outlook, and a global vision. And if you define that vision, then the next question is what should be your educational model and your educational programs for you to actually achieve that vision of developing leaders. And we did a large benchmark to understand where other institutions were in terms of their thinking. Then we did our own thinking and our innovation to develop Tech 21. Tech 21 is based out of 4 pillars, as you mentioned. The first one is challenge-based learning. We believe that if you contextualize learning through a challenge in which a student understands that he not only needs to know the content, but also have the skills and the capabilities to apply it and the right mindset to do it, is the best way to develop the type of leaders that we want in the 21st century. So that's pillar number 1, challenge-based learning. The second one was flexibility. Flexibility as to where, how, and when to learn. Flexibility in terms of channels, flexibility in terms of empowering the students to drive their own learning, flexibility in the beginning of the programs so they can experiment and understand what motivates them, where their passion is, and then later on through our trayectorias model, the pathway model, they can actually specialize and concentrate in different disciplines that complement their initial decisions. The third one is a memorable university experience. We identified that for many of our alumni, the way that they developed their leadership capacities was through their curriculum and academic activities, but also through campus life, participating in academic experience, in athletics, in cultural experiences. Internationalization has and will always be a key element of how we develop these leadership competences, these entrepreneurship competences. Participating in entrepreneurship festivals and activities, and getting to truly experience the campus life was part of what the Tech 21 model was defined to be. And the fourth one, which I think is very relevant, is inspiring faculty. It has become, we understand that content will be increasingly available online and in many formats, but access to truly inspiring faculty is a scarce resource, and it's part of how our students will be capable of developing the best versions of themselves by interacting and connecting with these inspiring faculties that they can be inspiring in many ways, through their research, through their care for the students, through the projects that they define, through their pedagogy. So with these 4 pillars is what constitutes the Tech 21 model.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. In August 2019, the School of Business launched the first major challenge across all 26 campuses with Coppel, one of Mexico's largest retailers that serves low-income populations. The first challenge was structured as a competition, and it had a lot of interest. Now let's watch a short video about the challenges to help you live the excitement of the experience.
La alianza entre Coppel y el Tecnológico de Monterrey nos permitió brindar a los alumnos una experiencia formativa integral.
A un chavo egresado de este modelo lo visualizo con mucha mayor confianza sobre los retos que va a tener que enfrentar.
La verdad, ver a los alumnos Superar el reto de esta manera me hace sentir extremadamente orgullosa de ellos.
El reto me pareció muy complejo, sin embargo una experiencia increíble.
Me ha parecido una experiencia muy interesante, muy valiosa en el sentido de que pues no solo estamos aprendiendo de un libro, sino realmente de las experiencias y de vivencias reales. El estar aquí es una oportunidad increíble y pues nos da una probadita de lo que es el mundo real.
Coppel volvió a apostar por las propuestas de los alumnos de negocios del TEC, principalmente porque el año pasado tuvimos una muy buena experiencia.
Me sorprendió mucho cómo ellos de manera remota pudieron alcanzar a detectar cuáles eran nuestros pain points como empresa, pero también los pain points del cliente final.
Creo que ninguno de nosotros nos planteamos en la mente que íbamos a presentar un proyecto que iba a ser tan grande.
Y a mí me impresiona mucho el trabajo en equipo que han realizado, la dinámica que han hecho, el liderazgo.
Si yo tuviera que describir el reto Coppel en una palabra, le pondría apasionante.
Consistencia.
Inspirador.
Satisfactorio.
Impresionante.
Trabajo.
Sería imponente.
Innovador.
Experiencia.
Sin duda sería memorable.
Pillar 2 encompasses tech's flexible structure. Let's have a look at this video to see how flexibility was introduced at every stage from career selection to the structure of the semester.
The educational model Tech 21 is one of a kind, disruptive and flexible. It is designed to unleash your full potential. In this model, you'll learn through teamwork-oriented challenges guided by professors from various disciplines. Investigation and connecting theory with practice will be required. It will be all about developing your own knowledge and not about studying to take a test. It is about growing lifelong abilities, attitudes, and values. With this new model, you'll develop a different set of skills. Some focused on the major you choose, and others that are required to be a transforming leader in any environment you develop. The educational model, Tech 21 study plan is divided into 3 stages: exploration, focus, and specialization. During the exploration stage, you choose one entry, so you get to experience challenges that will provide you with a comprehensive view of the area of interest. During the focus stage, you will go deeper into topics and content related to your major. And during the specialization stage, you are focused in practical concentrations and/or national or international programs. Your study plan has new innovative components such as blocks, integrated by a challenge and learning module combining practice and theory. You also get to experience the Tech Weeks, intense and short-term experiences that will strengthen your leadership profile. During your 6th or 7th semester, you'll experience the Tech Semester, during which you'll personalize your career according to the options available at your campus, other tech campuses, or even abroad. In this great adventure, you'll always have support as part of a great student community, where you'll meet great friends, and from day one you'll have a mentor, an academic tutor, and a peer mentor that will support and orient you to live the best tech experience. What are you waiting for? Come to Tech. Explore, choose, unleash your potential to transform.
Now let's hear from Ignacio de la Vega, who will tell us how Tech responded to the COVID-19 pandemic with its High Flex initiative. Over to you, Ignacio.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. On March 12th is when Tec de Monterrey announced our migration to online classes and to homework for almost 30,000 collaborators into the university. That meant also getting into our digital flexible model at that time. And as you might imagine, the migration was not a gimme. It involved something like 90,000 students, 10,000 professors, and more than 50,000 synchronous virtual sessions per week. So supporting, retraining, helping 10,000 teachers was one of the key elements in the early success of the model. And it implied methodological redesign, definitely enhancing their confidence on the use of digital platforms, adapting courses to a digital context, the design of active learning activities now online, integrating technology, Zoom with other lecturing platforms. Not an easy thing to do in such a short span of time. In 24 hours, we were able to be at the Guided Business School online, and only in a week for the whole undergraduate part of the university online. And as a result, something like 500,000 classes took place during this period, March until the launch of Hyper Tech Plus. Something like 2,000 classes taking place simultaneously every day and without major issues. 99.9% of the classes went through well, and the satisfaction of the students was catching up. But still, we needed to cover one of the pillars of Tech 21st, this integral view of education. And we launched HiFlex Plus Tech as an evolution of our digital flexible model. And this means hybrid, which combines remote and in-person activities. It means flexible, allowing to jump in and out from in-person to remote as conditions require. It means plus, which is combining hundreds of resources that normally took place on campus face-to-face into this digital or hybrid model. Things like life at home, wellness activities, MOOCs, sports, music, arts, leadership. Cuida tu mente, which is take care of your mental health, psycho-medical, nutritional, 24/7 free support, boost your skills, enlarging a little bit the scope of the academic training through short courses, through MOOC certificates. Big effort, and we are now like 3 months into the launch of HiFlex Plus Tech, and keeping innovating, keeping improving, keeping adapting to enhance our value proposition for our students. Thank you, Anne.
That was a great window into the Tech 21 model and how it has adapted. Now let's look at the resources that were needed for implementation and the results. As you can imagine, the new business model had higher operating costs. Tech made significant investments of about $110 million to prepare 26 campuses and about 58,000 undergraduate students for the new model. This has been done in phases, and there is more to come. It reconfigured the physical spaces. The classrooms are larger and have more open spaces conducive to working in groups and independently. It did a major overhaul of all its IT systems to align the business with the new model. Classrooms and common areas were retrofitted with new communications and IT systems, and it made large investments to expand broadband access. Further, all of the changes in the processes for the educational model had to be reflected in the IT systems. Tech had to completely change the registrar, the learning management system, the academic management, and the student record IT systems. To rebalance the economic model, Tech has undertaken several efforts to make it sustainable. Since Tech did not want to raise tuition much more than the cost of inflation, Tech embraced a strategy to generate efficiencies and savings. In the process of preparing for Tech 21, the institution underwent a consolidation, eliminating some degrees, courses, and reducing the total number of semesters from 9 to 8. It created a shared services center for all the administrative corporate back office functions, such as finance and human resources and procurement. And it did this for all 26 campuses. The service center consolidation resulted in about $10 million in annual savings. Other efforts, such as consolidation and better leveraging technology and online courses and eliminating some unprofitable areas, generated about another $5 million in savings. Now let's look at the results. As the news about Tech's new model spread, demand grew significantly. Applications grew at double-digit rates, and Tech admitted 800 more students in the first year of the model. With an 8% increase in students and a reduction in the dropout rate, the university was able to rebalance its revenue model. It spread costs over a growing student base and is keeping tuition in check. Tuition was at an average of about $11,000 a year, which is very expensive in Mexico compared to the cost of public education. Tuition increases have been contained to an average of about 6% between 2018 and 2019. It is expected to continue to increase tuition at about 1% per year. After 3 more years, when Tech 21 is fully implemented across all cohorts, it expects to stabilize the number of students over the long run with about 2,000 more students. Looking at revenues, in 2018, Tech's gross revenues for the university segment was $750 million. Revenues were up 7% from 2017 as a result of the increased enrollment due to Tech 21 implementation. About 2/3 of revenues were from undergraduate programs, while graduate programs brought in about 5%. So in conclusion, the sounds of the student restlessness that had permeated classrooms in 2012 have been replaced with a buzz of students interacting with each other, with faculty and with development partners. There's a lot of excitement about the future for Tec de Monterrey and its ability to influence emerging leaders in the 21st century. The Tech 21 experience is cultivating a new generation of learners who are armed with new ideas and effective tools, and who are eager to make the world a better place. For David Garza, Tech is an institution that has dared to change its mindset, its attitudes, its behaviors, the vision, and decisions. By fundamentally changing its educational strategy and positioning students at the center of everything Tech does, it is preparing students to tackle some of the largest human problems. By giving students greater control over their career paths and involving students more deeply in their learning process, Tech students will develop even stronger technical competencies. They will also be critical and creative thinkers who are good at complex problem solving. And working in multidisciplinary teams, they will be good at adaptability and at navigating ambiguity. Through all the complexities they have been introduced to, they will be good at framing problems and analyzing issues and connecting the dots and finding innovative solutions. In sum, Tech students will be better prepared for a complex and in an uncertain world. For Tech, the educational reform has been a long journey, and it has not been easy to introduce a new model. But Tech is betting that its new educational model will ensure its role as a relevant player in society, whose responsibility is to prepare students for life over a lifetime.
Thank you, Anne. And now I have the privilege of welcoming our panel members, whom Anne will also be moderating. We have Juan Pablo Murra, Rector for Higher Education at Tecnológico de Monterrey, Ignacio de la Vega, Dean of EGADE Business School and of our Undergraduate School of Business, and Susana Coppel, President of Fundación Coppel and a representative of Grupo Coppel, who has been a key business partner in Tech 21's success and a provider of learning challenges that our students under the Tech 21 model have been addressing as part of their academic experience. Welcome, everyone, and Anne, the panel is all yours.
Now we're going to enter the question period. We'd like to begin with Juan Pablo. After years of research and iteration, the Tech 21 educational model was officially launched in August 2019. After 3 semesters of operation, what have you learned?
Thank you, Anne. That's a great question. So I think the first insight or revelation is that prospective students, their family, and the students really embrace the model. While we were designing it, we always had in the back of our mind a concern if the market will understand it. And in the first 2 incoming classes, the number of applicants and the quality of applicants has increased significantly. So that has been a reassurance that the way that we're presenting and communicating the model and designing the model. It's resonating with their families, with incoming students, with students of high leadership potential, which is I think crucial for the success of the model. So that's I think something that we learn and we're happy about it. Second, I think in education we have the challenge that true outcomes will reveal. It will take sometimes decades to really know if the model is working. That said, most of the leading indicators that we can assess, we're very happy with them in terms of faculty, student satisfaction with their faculty, in terms of retention and completion of credits in the first year, in terms of student surveys and how they are embracing their challenges and their units and their courses has been also being very positive. I think also we sort of expected this, but it's always the degree of it. It's always a surprise. But two things. I think the new model demands different skills for both students and faculty, and it demands time commitments in different ways. And I think adapting to that has been probably one of the largest challenges, because most of our faculty now need to do things differently in terms of designing the academic activities. It became more of a sports activity in terms of now you don't go alone to your course and that's it. You need to understand where the student left their competences in the past course. You need to coordinate with other faculty members. You need to coordinate with the development partners. So it became a team activity, and that in teaching is not always the case. Also for our students, it became much more engaging and demanding. We modularize a lot of the learning. So now some courses that used to take 16 weeks, now we have some courses that are, and units that are 5 weeks, 10 weeks, or 15 weeks. The speed and the pace has increased significantly. So some students are adapting easier than others. And I think that's also something that we need to see what elements of this modularization and speed and cadence is right for the model and which needs to be adapted. And also we need to be very careful because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we don't know if many of the elements that I'm saying are because of the pandemic or because of the model. So the adaptation of this highly innovative new model in this complex context has been a challenge, and something that we have confirmed is something that's not something that we learned, but we expected this to be. Is about faculty and the training and development of our faculty and supporting them and guiding them and with technology, with ideas, with pedagogy, with training, with support is and will be the key aspect of the model.
Excellent. A lot of key learnings. Thank you for sharing that with us, Juan Pablo. Now, Ignacio, can we turn to you? One of the main characteristics of Tech 21 is its training based on competencies, in part to cultivate the development of skills demanded by labor markets. How are these competencies selected? How do you assess students under this model?
Thank you, Anna. Another great question and a pillar of a Tecnológico educational model, as we already stated, is our competencies-based learning model. And what we believe here at Tecnológico and behind the model is that the best education we can offer our students, our learners, our communities, definitely involves the development of a lifelong learning mindset, allowing them to learn, to forget, to relearn throughout their careers, throughout their lives. And this is mostly needed, of course, in something that was pre-pandemic, adapting to a context, industries, markets, organizations, in permanent and exponential change. So this is what is behind the thinking of our skill-based learning model, but then you gotta do it and make it happen. Of course, a lot of different bodies and research, the Future of Work, International Labor Organization, IFC, you guys, the World Bank, have stated that development of skills and competencies is growing important today and in the future. And in my conversations, and this is what I do as a dean, talk to people all the time, faculty, students, CEOs of organizations. This is something that has been a classic in the past 3-4 years. This is what we are looking for in the future talent we bring into our organization. And then it comes a list, endless list of skills, which doesn't mean that knowledge and technical skills are not important. Of course they are. So at Tech 21st, to keep this short, we distinguish in the design 2 types of competencies, skills. Those disciplinary related to the professional area, the discipline that the student chooses as an entry. Let's say business, one top school, of course, at Tecnológico Monterrey. The other ones are transversal. And these are 7 by design, and they have a big impact, a direct impact in our opinion, on the lives and on the careers of our learners, our students. Those are self-knowledge and self-management, innovative, entrepreneurship, social intelligence, ethic and civic involvement, reasoning to confront complexity, communication, and digital transformation. And then it comes the tricky part. I mean, how do you assess? How do you follow up? How do you measure the acquisition of these skills? And we develop a model, and the model is in work in progress, and we keep updating and improving with some support of technology that is highly required to measure and track the acquisition of the skills. And at the end of the day, what we want to measure is that each student will have a domain that also by design can be stronger or a bit weaker of each competency through evidence of the domain and through tons of different performing activities. Not easy to explain, not easy to do, and high impact activity, our competency-based model.
Excellent. Thank you, Ignacio. That was a great summary. Now let's turn to Susana. Susana, one of the key elements of the Tech 21 model is working with companies that are called development partners. Why become a development partner with tech? And you hire hundreds of employees. Thinking about students as prospective employees, what kind of differences have you noticed in tech students who have participated in the Tech 21 challenges?
It's a very good question. This is actually the second year we have participated as a development partner. Forming part of such a partnership is a win-win situation where we get to be in touch with such a young generation and listen to their ideas and their proposals with a fresh perspective. It really helps us level our current strategy and make sure we are better equipped to cater the new generation. I think it also gives us the opportunity for students to get to know us better as an organization, our core values, our mission, so we can hopefully appeal to them as a potential future employees. And it's true, we hire hundreds of people, we hire thousands of people every year. Since this is the second year this has taken place, so it's going to be very interesting to see the first generation class incorporate into their first professional role. And I know, as Juan Pablo said, it might take a little longer to see the fruit of all this work, but I think through this methodology, you constantly see the improvement. You're actually seeing their competencies being developed while they're doing the challenge with us. It is very gratifying to see how they act under pressure, the confidence they portray when they present their ideas. And I'm sure that that confidence, if they have it as a young age, they will carry on to their professional lives. They will be better prepared to take on the real life challenges that we constantly face that will make them better professionals. So it's been very gratifying to see that development this couple of years.
Excellent. As a follow-on question, can you tell us how much of this workplace immersion has been affected by distance learning and remote work?
I think the distance learning actually exemplifies the workplace immersion. Everyone is doing work from home these days due to the pandemic, But if you look at real life examples of how consulting projects work, a lot of this work is done remotely due to budget restrictions or to make work more efficient. I think we already had a tendency in the world to move to more online and more distant, and the pandemic just made us do it faster. And I think the students got to see it firsthand. This year, the students did everything remotely. They had to research online, do group work remotely, and even present remotely, and they excelled at it. So I think the remote learning aspect of this year challenge actually helped shed some light on very real world life challenges.
An immersion indeed it has been for those students. Thank you for that, Susana. Let's go back to Juan Pablo and Ignacio. Another pillar in the application of the Tech 21 educational model has been the faculty. For education institutions that are interested in following in the footsteps of tech, what lessons should be taken to support the role of faculty?
Thank you, and I can take a stab and then pass it on to you, Ignacio. I think very early on, we understood that the commitment and understanding of faculty was crucial. We spent a lot of time explaining our vision on why this needed to change, why we needed to change. It was very easy probably to think that tech was already a leading institution and we should just keep doing what we were doing. But we saw the signals that this was not enough, that we could do more, and even if we didn't change, we could become irrelevant. So throughout the transformation process, communication is key. And you will always have some faculty members that will embrace change for the sake of change. Some others will probably never do it, but most of them are in the middle, and they need to understand the reason why that is not change for sake of change. I think that was important. Second, when you have people, for people to change, they have to have the will to change, and that's where the communication element is very relevant. But then the skill to change. Once they say, okay, I understand that I need to do things differently, is how can you support me? How can you help me? And I think in that way, again, faculty development in terms of training, being present, supporting them, truly embracing those that are, as David was saying, took us 6 years of piloting different elements, really support those that were embracing these pilots, don't punish mistakes, learn from them was also key. Also, we created what we call CEDIES, which are the Center for Faculty Development and Education and Innovation, for the Spanish acronym. And in there, faculty could very easily access and ask for support in the use of any technology in terms of education and innovation, in terms of connections with development partners. So truly communications, support, and overinvestment in terms of development is crucial. I don't know, Ignacio, if you want to complement with any ideas.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. Maybe a couple of them just to complete. I think for us, Tech 21st faculty is one of the pillars, and we're talking about inspiring professors. But what does this really mean? And I mean, I've been working in education for over 30 years and doing consulting here and there for many years. Some universities approach and ask, what does it take to be successful as a university, as an educational company, organization? And my answer was not very original, and it was not even mine. It was pretty simple. I mean, you get the best professors, you get the best students, you get the best portfolio, and you made it. And wow, I was ashamed sometimes that I was charging money for consulting fees, but I meant it. And let's go back now to faculty. Something that we have seen throughout the pandemic is talking about the doctors and the sanitary bodies as heroes, and it's pretty good definition. Also for faculty, I mean, they've been responsible for millions, billions of kids, students, learners all over the world, not to discontinue completely their academic careers, which are a huge impact that we cannot even measure. And they went way beyond their job description. We were explaining the flexible digital model, the high flex plus tech, and and probably took us less time to put together the acronyms than understanding what the faculty went through to be effective into this. So what is our vision? Definitely at the business school at Tecnológico Monterrey, our vision is first, thank you, faculty. I mean, you made it, and we're here because of your work. And second is we want to keep growing our profiles and get the best faculty out there, keep diversifying, bringing the best expertise, practitioners, researchers. And this is exactly where we are into, and probably something that David mentioned briefly towards 2025 in our vision 2030. So about faculty, thank you, faculty all over the world.
Indeed, the faculty is essential and their buy-in is essential equally. Let's turn back to Juan Pablo. Tech has broken down the traditional undergraduate model into modular components. Does modularization represent a long-term threat to the traditional model?
It's a great question, and I think is a threat, but also an opportunity. I do think that the traditional model in the future, by traditional 4-year undergraduate degree, cannot be the solution for everyone and for everything. I think we need to come up with different paths for developing, for learning, for education. I do still believe that there will be a special place for a 4-year program that will truly become, again, a luxury experience for a select number of very talented students. And for them, modularization will also improve the experience of a traditional program. Tech 21 is highly modularized, and that allows you the flexibility, the capacity to work with development partners, the connecting the internationalization piece, connecting different schools together. So I think that will serve. But also I do think that breaking down programs and competencies and even units of learning and modules of learning will also generate new paths and new ways of learning and growing and developing competencies that will be different from the traditional model. But I think the world needs so much education and so much learning and relearning that what we need to define is an array of different methodologies and different models of embracing that. And if modularization serves that purpose, I think that's great, and but will also serve the traditional 4-year program in many ways.
Thank you, Juan Pablo. So the key there is flexibility is the key to success. That's what I'm hearing.
It's challenging, but it is.
Excellent. Now let's turn to questions from the audience for the panel. We'd like to come back to you, Juan Pablo. Tec de Monterrey has developed a very innovative learning model and is paving the way for new digitally driven education platforms. What lessons have you learned from this transition? And do you believe the future standard for educational models will be similar to the ones you are developing? Why or why not?
Yes, thank you, Anne. So the first part of the question, what have we learned in terms of moving to digital education? I think one is technology matters, but also pedagogy matters a lot. We have understood very early on that you need to make classes interactive. You need to make sure that learning happens both asynchronously and synchronously. Also, it's very tempting to think that everything needs to be happening live. It also matters a lot the design of the learning experience and the connections that you plan for during the learning experiences, and all this element training of faculty for them, not only on the use of technology but on how students learn and how they learn differently. I think it's important. Also understanding that different learners have different learning methodology that works best for them, and I think that's something we still need to understand. For many of them, watching a video works. For some of them, needs to be a much more active and engaging activity. Also understanding that You need to make sure that you create a learning community and that students can connect among them, not only with faculty, is something that we have learned. And connecting to the second part of the question, is our current educational model or digital educational model a window for the future? I hope not. Even you can see it very early on. Since the pandemic, we moved to what we call emergency remote teaching, which was let's get everybody on Zoom at the same time in the same platform and have no problems connecting and make sure that the professor could finish up his courses the way he had designed them, thinking that it was going to be in a physical classroom. And since then, it has really changed a lot. We are experimenting with different models in which now you have probably somebody, a very prominent faculty member doing the teaching part of the course, and then you have teacher assistants or other faculty members working in projects with students. We are connecting I don't know, today, most of digital education is 2D. We see each other in these flat screens. I think increasingly augmented reality, virtual reality will continue to play a more prominent role. And starting to apply machine learning and artificial intelligence to tailorize and individualize learning and assessment will be relevant. So I think we still don't fully grasp the moment that you move education to a digital environment, the possibilities just are endless. So I think the future looks very different to what we're doing today. And we're looking forward to being part of that future here in Tech and in Latin America.
Excellent. Let's turn now to Ignacio. How can institutions in other emerging markets, especially where the technology infrastructure may not be as advanced, how can they apply some of the same strategies as Tech?
Thank you, Anne. Let me connect this a little bit with what Juan Pablo was just saying about the future. And something we knew is that the future had already started way before the pandemic, and that was the start of the design of Tech 21st, looking ahead. And relating your question to this, Tech 21st, what we are doing at EGADE, we launched something we call alternative learning, which is sort of an entrepreneurial spin-off that allows us to implement crazy things sometimes, not necessarily. And we do experiment and we do test technologies and educational models and different ways of doing things in modularity. And most of the things are working nicely. We bring them to our model. I believe this is also how we did launch Tech 21st. And technology is not necessarily a part of this piece. Tech 21st was launched, what was that, 18 months ago, and we were ready. Yeah, we were ready, but could we have waited another year to sort of fine-tune the model? Of course we could, but we needed to go out and we did. So how do we connect the innovation, the vision with the technology? I could say that vision is number one, innovation and capabilities and talent are number two, and then it comes technology. And of course we need technology infrastructure to run something like Tech 21st or any operation at a business school or at a university. Sometimes the technology is as simple as Excel spreadsheets. And we ended up using Excel to manage some processes because we didn't have the technology ready. And you go and look what is more important in your model. So what I could say is that for those countries in that geographies and institutions that might not have what it takes today to invest in super technology, I believe this is about empowering students, empowering teachers, creating an exceptional environment for them to unleash their potential and their transformation. And that this reminds me 2 years ago when I started talking to Susana and searching for our first national learning partner at the business school for Tech 21st. And we had this discussion. This is not about technology. I need some of your talent. We put some of our talent, talk together, get into the classroom, do the thing, see what happens. And in 5 weeks, we'll see you in Culiacan. And this is what we did. The only technology was really involved here was some communication through phone calls, our professors, our students, and the team at Coppel. So
fascinating Fascinating insights, Ignacio. So it's quite adaptable and people around the world in emerging markets can embrace it. Let's turn to Susana. As a development partner for Tech21, how easy or difficult has it been for Grupo Capel to review dozens of student proposals? And as a follow-up, last year, the first semester business students also participated in the challenge. How different was this year's online experience as compared to August 2019?
It's a great question. And it's a question I asked Ignacio when we were talking about making this development partnership happen. It's impossible to review the proposals of 847 teams that participate in the challenge. But the way the whole process is organized is by Tec de Monterrey. It has been instrumental for us to digest the entire process and the best students proposal. So it's a great help from Tec. And so Tec chooses their top teams. We nominated a group of executives from different parts of the organization to take part in the first round of nominations. And then the winners then pass on to a final round, and we choose judges to review the top 5 proposals and choose a winning team. I think we get involved around 20 executives and different management levels. And the final judges are normally the C-suite of our organization. This makes it a lot easier for us to focus on selecting the groups of students, and we can try to incorporate the proposals into our strategy. So it's a pretty easy exercise, and it has been very good to do it this couple of years. It has been a smooth process. About the changes and the challenges, how different was this year? The experience was very different, not only because it was also remote, but also because it was focused on creating ideas to better combat the challenges we were facing in the retail and financial service industry as an organization due to COVID. So it kind of was very on time. We provided the students with personas of our customers and asked them to focus on one and develop their idea around them. Of the 847 team, 5 finalists presented very innovative ideas that were also sound in judgment. What I found very gratifying was to see ideas that we did implement at the beginning of the pandemic. For instance, Mexico City team proposed to use WhatsApp to have a more seamless communication with our clients. And we implemented this back in April as part of our digital strategy and received great results. So it was a very good idea. The Leon team, who came in second place, proposed to incorporate healthcare products into our product offering, which also we did something similar at the beginning of the pandemic. And finally, the Cuernavaca team opted to leverage current technologies to facilitate online shopping and decrease the barriers to digital commerce, which is something we are still trying to do. In summary, this year's challenge was unique in many different ways, and not just due to its digital format.
So this is fascinating. It's a win-win both for Capel and for the students.
Yes.
Let's turn to Ignacio. COVID-19 has disrupted education all over the world, and Tec is no exception. What were the most difficult pedagogical and non-pedagogical challenges, such as student support, co-curricular student life, employability, and career services? So how did you overcome those challenges in a COVID-19 environment?
Well, thank you, Anne, for the question. And again, might seem that the solution to moving into a online format or hybrid format in the near future, and already happening in most of the US campuses, is technology. And again, I don't think this is the key. Of course, we moved every single student service online. And I was describing a few minutes ago about our Hiveless plus Tech model, which allows us now to be part in the classroom, part at home, with faculty interacting with both groups, having some student life activities on campus, some others on remote, but also we are still 100% on remote in Mexico by law. And even if we're ready as Tecnológico Monterrey, we need the green light from the government to move into certain regions. But we're ready to do it. In the meantime, we're doing it fully online. I don't believe that was the challenge. Students and faculty adapted real quick. We had a lot of supporting teams. We had a lot of best practices sharing. At the business school, we did a huge innovation contest for faculty to share the best practices. So we were sort of navigating quite well into the migration of online. I think the big challenge was external. And again, our community is very large and they are highly impacted by the pandemic, either by the epidemiological or sanitary crisis, the social, the financial, the dads losing the jobs. This has been, in my opinion, the biggest impact for all of us as educators. And again, the faculty were the heroes and they were very close to students, going well beyond their job description and not only teaching and developing skills, but supporting the students in this part of the process. Beyond that, we do have this live ecosystem, leadership and development for students, which is responsible for things like mental health, accompanying students with some of their issues, connecting them with different solutions inside and outside the organization, and also helping students to volunteer out there, which has been a very important part of these 9 months. How do we help our communities, our SMEs, the people that is not as privileged as we are to be online and all that stuff. So I could say that was the main key lesson for us.
Excellent. Now a question for Juan Pablo and Ignacio. Going back, there's a question about, were any stakeholders especially resistant to online teaching or learning?
Sure. So I think in a sense, the current situation doesn't allow you to be that resistant to online teaching. It was the only option that we had to move forward, and that has, as many other institutions, truly advanced digital education and digital transformation overall. Of course, if you ask me, there are some students and family members that are not as happy with digital education. And I think also, as I was saying, for me, going forward, the high quality education will demand both physical interaction in a way and digital components of it, because I think it allows you for different pieces of development and growing for our students and our faculty. It should and to really understand what works best in a digital environment versus a presential environment. It will be an ongoing question, and it will truly depend on the discipline, the method, the learning expectations, and the learning outcomes. Of course, some subjects that demand more lab work, or that require special equipment, or that demand to be in a physical location, like our medical students, it's more challenging than others. I think overall, as Ignacio was saying, we have really had minor issues in terms of the teaching and learning aspects of our processes and our students. But I do see our students missing out on their student life, on their campus life. So sometimes that gets mixed into the equation. It's not that the teaching is not working or is being compromised. It's that the complete experience is not what they expected and what they should be getting. We need to acknowledge that and be very empathic about that, and understand how we compensate that as much as possible with all the innovative ideas of the plus. The plus is very relevant to make sure that it's not we don't only address the teaching elements, but the entire experience for the student. But I think it has served many of us to question paradigms and to truly understand that there are things that we're doing now that could not have been possible if it was not for technology and digital learning. But also recognize there are some elements that are better when you are together in a room, and understand which ones are better and how to leverage both of them. I think is the challenge for the future.
So yes, the technology is a solution, but we know that students around the world are very eager to get back to campus.
Yeah.
They do miss that student life. Ignacio, please.
Yeah, just to add, in a different angle, I changed my background. So I can now talk with another hat, which is the Dean of the Graduate Business School, to change a little bit the scope. I mean, we moved at the Graduate Business School something like 2.5 years ago into full online programs. We made much more blended our regular MBA and the master program, our data analytics that is coming into market. So we were there. And we were feeling some tensions between those faculty that either were not ready or were not willing to teach online. The market was a different thing because we were selling online products. So those students entering the online space knew exactly why, and it was pretty good, and it has demonstrated a very good tool for them. Why? Same quality. It's quite flexible, adaptable. You can make it in multi, whatever. I mean, we know all the advantages of that. So now let's go back to those students that do prefer sports to esports. They prefer to travel the world if they can allow and get on a scholarship, that to do remote internationalization seminars with partner schools. Of course, for those students, the future is going to be different to what we had 9 months ago. It won't be a fully on-campus-based experience. We're going to see a much more hybrid model for two reasons. The students do like it. Why do I need to go to my university 7 a.m., then wait 3 hours to have another class? You know what? I'll take the 7 a.m. online, and then I go and take the other one face-to-face. We're going to see that from the student perspective, but also from the faculty. And today in the US, we're seeing that some large percentage of faculty, those that, maybe are more exposed to the pandemic, don't want to go back to campus, want to do online. And I'm talking to my deans in our consortiums. What they're saying is, you know what, should they be paid exactly the same if they don't contribute to the campus life? And so we're going to see a lot of discussion about that. And hopefully, my opinion is that the future that already started will be hybrid, whatever it means.
Excellent. Ignacio, picking up on your comment about quality, we have a question from the audience, and they are asking, how are you monitoring the use of new digital tools and learning modalities to ensure that tech is providing consistently high quality learning experience as compared to traditional modalities?
Originally, Tech was launched mostly as an engineering and business school. And from the engineering side, we have, let me say this mildly, quite an obsession to measure things. So believe me, we are measuring every day how everything is performing within the system. And it's not only about the satisfaction of the students, it's about also the acquisition of the skills, the technical skills, how they move into the relationship with faculty, and 100 other issues. So measuring is not the problem. The problem is delivering what needs to be measured with quality. So of course, technology helps us with that. Again, we have a huge ecosystem of different technology tools that sometimes are difficult to integrate. And this is what innovation brings. When you grow in innovation, you also grow sometimes in complexity. And measuring, and in the measuring, again, the faculty has a huge role. And at the end, faculty members are the ones in close contact, the ones measuring and helping, reporting the evaluation, the development of the skills, but also getting something that is not measurable, instant feedback from students. Mm-hmm. So thousands of systems integrated that allows us to measure and to report, and not only in the academic side of what we do, but in the non-academic, in the life activity, in the mental status of our students and communities. In the entrepreneurial work, we haven't talked about entrepreneurship today, which is a tool for innovation, and definitely one of the main areas of excellence of Tecnológico in Monterrey. We measure everything, in other words.
Excellent, thank you. I'd like to thank the entire panel for your fantastic insights into Tech 21 and the High Flex plus Tech pivot. I think that you've shared a lot of valuable information that our audience can really benefit from and take home and adapt to their own environments. So I want to thank you, panelists, for joining us today. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the presentation insightful and full of ideas that you can take back to your institutions. To learn more, we encourage that you download the case study at the link below.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this fascinating discussion on the Tech 21 model and how at Tecnológico de Monterrey we've been changing the educational paradigm and extrapolating lessons that might be of interest to all of the global educational players, participants, directives, and leaders connected to this session today. We invite you to join us for future sessions on this series organized by the IFC and hope to see you soon. Thank you.